CS greetings, CS goers, and assorted esports fans. I am Extremes, and this lovely gentleman with me here is DeMoNiK. How's it going?
I am very well, thank you, Ax.
And
A little bit wet, but otherwise okay.
and not just because you have all this anticipation about what we're going to talk about. It's actually
Oh,
because
absolutely.
of the hurricane happening there in Cape Town.
Yeah, slight stormy outside, and I'm always excited to talk about esports in
Okay, so
general.
you're a little bit weird for esports.
Yeah, always, just a little, just a little.
So, dear viewer, what DeMoNiK does is he does everything. He's been called by the illustrious Prophecy, and I call him that because I want to make him blush. He's been called by Prophecy the Swiss Army knife of South African esports. He's currently a caster and content creator, formerly of the Telkom DGL, journalist for them, and General Dog's Body, jack of all
Yeah,
trades, master
jack
of
of
a
all
couple
trades.
things.
Yeah, and good at none, really.
Oh, gee, burning yourself. That's what I do on stream, man. You're not supposed to do it.
Oh, sorry, my
Look,
bad.
I mean, geez, it says in my contracts I need to burn myself, like, for ESL, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't, but I do it anyway. So let's start. I mean, again, you're a guy been involved with Dota, but I've seen you in a couple of interesting videos where called Clown Squad with old Clarence, where you're playing CS:GO. So I have this sneaky suspicion you actually like all esports.
I do. I mean, Counter-Strike I've been playing for, oh gosh, since it first came out. On LAN with people like Wham, Adam Pastevsky. He's one, actually, we were at school together from Sjöberg until matric. So
Sub A,
he's
I also went to school in the
grade
in the
one,
Western
whatever.
Cape, and it was called that too.
And I was in the Eastern Cape anyway, Port
Yeah,
Elizabeth in
it
Swiss
said
City.
Cape on the tin, and it was called Sub, and the poor people up in Gauteng are like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, and so I mean, I had thousands of hours of Counter Strike in my life already. So it's always I can easily hop back onto the bandwagon whenever I want to sort of dip my toes in that Counter Strike water. I'm terrible though. I was always the Dota player in that sort of group of friends. So
Yo. So I mean, you went to school with Adam. You've obviously there's. It seems like the sort of industry people are all from PE. It's just like this overwhelming PE presence. There's Congo Carl. There's like half the Bravado team. There's you know. The Easy Studios Eagle, who you also
yeah,
went to, and whose video we were just mentioning. It just seems like everybody is from there. Why do you people have like esports in your blood down
I
there?
just don't think there's much to do there. For between the ages of sort of 14 to
Forever.
30, yeah, for forever. There's not like, there's the one club that sort of pops up and then it disappears again, and then that always sort of happens on cycles. So there's not much to do to go out unless you're like going to other people's houses
So
and stuff. So
when
you end
that
up like landing a lot and stuff. I landed with a lot of people. That's where I know a lot of people like from the esports industry is actually from, and especially those sort of lands. We used to land in a church somewhere in Warmer.
committed all those acts of violence in a church,
Call of Duty. So there were many acts of violence in a church. Yeah.
and back in those days as well, people used to swap porn at lands too. So I'm sure that went down as well in a
There
church.
was there was always my one friend. Shout out to Davey. He always had the weirdest.
Is that Davy G?
No.
Oh,
I
okay,
think
no.
his nick's still Boogeyman.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was
Like,
just thinking of another PE guy that I know from TF2, but
oh no! It's not Davey G. No, this is Dawei.
ah.
But he had some really. If you were into the interesting stuff, that's where you'd go to learn.
There was always that one guy. That
The
one
one
guy.
guy.
"Psst,
Oh,
look at this. No, I don't want to look at it. I
he
know
was
what
the
it is already.
he was the worst. Yeah.
So let's talk about your playing career a little bit. It has had a recent revival, which we will touch on, but let's talk about it. Where did you start? Where did you end until recently?
So I started competitive Dota. I've been playing Dota since about 2003 with that same group of friends. I eventually became an admin on the Warcraft 3 server because their Counter-Strike team that they had an admin on the Warcraft 3 server, Nitrate, Dean, and we became friends playing Dota, and eventually he gave me admin because that's how things worked back in the day, and then suddenly I was this sort of omnipotent power across a Warcraft 3 server. And then eventually I started, and that was about 2005, and then 2007 I decided to actually start playing competitively, and basically hounded the best team at the time, which was XPZ, and became friends with Sadie, and basically just played pubs with them and just continued to ask to join their team until eventually they allowed me to come LAN with them one weekend.
You wore them down, is that what you did?
I essentially wore them down until they let me join, and after that we crushed everyone. To be honest, Devin will say it differently because he likes to remember it differently. But we crushed everyone. Like, we didn't lose any tournaments for ages. And then we eventually became the first Bravado Gaming Dota side, actually, in 2008. Fun fact.
Ooh.
And that was shortly before we were actually the MSSA side.
Shock horror.
Took on SK Gaming when they came down to South Africa, and we got horribly beaten because they had just come second at like an ESWC the week before and were regarded as the second, if not the best team in the world. So obviously we were going to get crushed. There was no chance like we were ever not going to get crushed. But that was fun, and I managed to headshot Spawn because they asked me to play Counter-Strike with them while they were warming up, and I headshotted him with a deagle. And that was like essentially my Counter-Strike career.
Career equal made. Wow, you headshot Spawn.
I headshot Spawn. I mean,
no ways. So yeah, he's on a reality show now.
Really?
Yeah, so a Counter-Strike reality show. How weird is that?
He kept on having to go back to the hotel room because he couldn't handle like the altitude and the amount of oxygen in the air in Johannesburg. So he kept on having to go onto oxygen.
Really? Holy crap!
But in a brief time that he was actually functioning as a human being, I managed to headshot him 1.6.
Well, I don't think he was functioning then. But I mean, you're a Swede, and yet you were just fine.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like a bastard Swede since I'm like second generation South African, right? So I'm not quite. I'm just Swedish enough to have the surname and the blue eyes. Other than that, it's all in the name, really.
Do you make meatballs? Are they good?
I do make delicious meatballs, actually.
Then you are Swedish.
Yeah, that's fair.
Confirmed.
And then after that, I got kicked from the BBD side. I wasn't good enough, yo. So then I made my own team, KKNP, and that eventually crossed over from Dota 1 to Dota 2. We were in Dota 1 for a while, and then Dota 2, I was in the Premier Division at the start of Dota 2, so that's like 2012, 2013, even as late as 2014, I was in sort of the Premier Division, First Division, essentially trying to stay in Premier Division. That was our life as KKNP. We were never the top side. We were always the side that was just like, please God, let us get enough wins to actually stay in Premier Division.
Keep this nightmare alive. Let's not go down to the lower leagues.
Yeah. So we can continue to get crushed by Bravado Gaming. Yes.
Yeah, I know that feeling well.
So we did that for a while, but eventually I kept on having players leave and go join better sites. And to be fair, they've done really well. I think one of the last iterations of my side had Adam Were.
Wow.
He now plays for FTC.
Big name there.
Yeah, he went off. Him and his friend Andre went off to IFG, and then he eventually, moved on to APG and further up the ladder. So he moved on to greater things. And I found him because he was a friend of my friends, and my friend was like, "This guy's pretty good. He's a friend of mine. We should get him in our team." And then I got him in our team, and he was brilliant. He was he's a very good Dota player, and obviously he was going to get spotted by other people. And eventually I was just like, "Okay, fine, you can move on," and then I'll go casting. So then I decided to cast instead.
Wow. Okay. So that leads us further down the ladder. But before we get to the casting thing, what you're currently doing as a player is mad. You're a player again. You're playing.
Yeah,
You're the fifth for DC in Masters.
I am the fifth for DC and Masters. Since I am no longer part of Telkom Gaming or the Telkom DGL, I can officially play in the leagues again. And Alistair Behrman is a monk in my Dungeons and Dragons party, not only, but a good friend of mine. He's they've been struggling for a while to get a stable roster in their Dota side. So when he asked me if he knew any players, I thought, I've got some free time. Why the hell not? So I tried out for the team, and it's a good bunch of guys, and we're doing pretty well, actually, not too bad. So I'm happy with the way things are going.
Awesome. You mentioned you guys actually knocked over Mythic the other day.
It was a best of one, and we were 2 racks down, and we did manage to win with the Terrorblade, which is a filthy way to win a Dota game. But a win is a win, and considering that we've been together 2 weeks to beat like Mythic Gaming, yeah, it was an arena qualifier to get into, like, there were 2 spots for the Premier League, or whatever they call their top division, and it was Sin 5 and Pulse that eventually got it. We got knocked out by Pulse in the lower brackets, but we managed to get third. So out of 7 or 8 teams. So that's
not bad.
Considering we've been together for 2 weeks, and it's a new patch. I think that's like a pretty superb thing.
Absolutely.
Pretty superb place for Masters team that's been struggling. We're on the up, y'all. Watch out.
Watch the space.
Watch the space, y'all.
Be afraid of us in best of ones. My
aged reaction time is still capable of winning a Dota 2 game every now and then.
You're probably not as old as me, man. So you're probably just fine.
Yeah, almost 29. So I mean, it's
exactly. I'm older than you. So
yeah,
dude, I didn't even make my debut at DGC at your young age.
That's fair.
So never say that those of advanced age cannot do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Never too young. Look at Roger Federer. He still crushes tennis, and he's like almost 40, right?
That's madness. So, he's a genetic freak, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So you mentioned your casting career. Let's touch on that a little bit. Of course, there's the journalism thing, which probably people know you for just as much, but we'll go there now. Let's talk about casting. So you stopped playing. It was with KKNP. And you decided to jump into casting. Was it something that you were sort of forced into because they just needed somebody, or was it like a conscious, hey, I really want to do this?
No, it was a conscious, hey, it was something that I really want to do. Everyone said that I have a pretty good voice, and I've done some voice training, obviously, because I've done a degree in music, and one of my instruments was voice. So I've done some singing training and vocal coaching and that kind of thing. So I reckon that it's not the worst thing to listen to in the world, if that makes sense. So I said, hell, if I actually practice it and get good at casting, it may be a profitable avenue for me in the future. But I was obviously still working at DGL at the time, since I'd been working there since 2013. So it was, and they needed their games casted. So I said, hells, why not? I'll do it. And then actually just started casting the Premier
Swiss Army knife moment. You need a jingle like Swiss Army knife, something like that.
Yeah, and at the time I was with
80s.
You need sort of that retro, like sort of with the Swiss Army knife in the middle.
Yeah, sort of motion happening around the camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. I was with professional multicasting. Right, so with Ben and Scant, Anthony, Ben being Knoxville, and I sort of joined them, and we teamed up with NAV for a couple of events, and I cast a DGC game or two, but I never actually got to cast any of DGC. I was always working as a journalist until last year. Last year was actually the first time I cast a Dota event for the DGL from like start to finish, but I was sort of the panel host as well. So it was sort of casting.
Over to myself on the casting desk.
Yeah, you're brilliant. Thank you. That's wonderful. But
Wow.
yeah, so and I cast LRB LAN, and now that I'm actually not part of Telkom Gaming anymore, I can do other events. So that's why I was able to do the Mega 8 with Wilson, which was a fantastic event 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, it was actually really nice to watch.
Yeah.
And I know very little about Dota, but the flashing colors were most yeah, they really drew me in. It's sort of like a cat sort of batting at a no, not at all. As I was saying before when we were talking before, I really enjoy the pre-game stuff for me because just as a person involved in esports, it's always interesting to see how the guys in other games are doing their things, how they approach their analysis, and kind of the interaction between the people on the panel. I thought your panel at Mega 8 was quite interesting with Donny on there. So, Donio.
Donio, I shared a hotel room with Donio. Very interesting man.
Donny.
He is not afraid to tell it like it is. Hey, if something's bad, he will just be like, "That is."
Yeah,
bad.
those
You know
S bombs.
what I mean?
That was so great.
I don't know. Man, that's shit. Yeah, you're like,
Like, oh,
Donny!
don't say that. You're on a broadcast.
You're on UK television. Fuck, Donny. Damn it.
Fuck it, Donny. What are you doing? Oh, wait. Like, kind of vibe.
It was great, but he is really knowledgeable about Dota. Like he knows what the hell he's talking about, right? Actually, everyone on that panel knew what the hell they were talking about, which I think is what made it so good. That's that's probably one of the best broadcast teams I've seen for a Dota events.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and again, as somebody outside of the scene, and I mean, I'm not hugely into Dota. I understand the basics, but I don't have the time, man. I got to keep at the top of my game in my game. So if I was esports full time, man, like Dota would be literally first on the list. But it's just unfortunate the final of that event was a little less than exciting. But at least Evan got the sick burn on the panel by predicting that was exactly what was going to happen. So
yeah, it's the BVD effect, right? These people the White Rabbit Gaming at this stage of the game are so far inside XTC's heads, they wake up and can smell like Brill cream in the morning, essentially, to steal a scrub from to steal you're so far up your ass, you wake up and you smell Brill cream at the back of your throat to steal Scrubs quotes, because they're inside their heads, right? So XTC, until they need to do now what WRG did to BVD, which is lose again and again and again and again and again, and eventually you get over that barrier of being fuck it, whatever, we can actually just beat these guys, and then you just win.
It's that or mental destruction forever, and team change.
Yeah, and then the inevitable roster change, and then you start from scratch all over again, right? Which is what South African Dota does.
All esports, even international, it's kind of that. Guys never usually have the patience. That's why the WRG story, I think, is so interesting and unique, in that they actually ground away for all that time, taking all that pain, and without like a sports psychologist. Like, I mean, in CS there's Astralis who had the same sort of thing, where they just kept failing at the final hurdle, and then had such a huge mental block they had to actually change the lineup and get a sports psychologist, and then only a few months later found success. I mean, WRG did it on their own by grinding. It's just what an amazing mentality to put yourself in that place to actually keep doing it.
Yeah, you have to. And there's so many examples of it in Dota, where these teams have stuck together and eventually just won the big tournament that they needed to win, right? Like Evil Geniuses is a good example. Wings Gaming last year they were a trash team for like a year and a half. When they came into the scene, they were just like, okay, these 5 Chinese guys, that were at varsity together, and they're pretty terrible. But then a year and a half later, they walk away with $10 million because they win the big dollar at the international. So, and now have squandered it in subsequent events or whatever. It's a whole scandal that's been happening in the Dota scene. But
Lamborghinis are too expensive in China.
Yeah, but I mean, so these teams stay together. It proves time and time again that if you just stay together long enough, you eventually get over that mental barrier, and you just beat anyone,
Or you could be NIP in CS.
Yeah, and just be terrible.
And just be terrible forever. Do you know what's interesting about that? I don't know if you follow anything there, but today there was quite a funny Twitter war. I mean, obviously this is not going to come out on the day that we're speaking, but
Yeah.
Simple, who's probably the most talented individual player in CS,
Yes.
is going to be a stand-in for them, and so is Flamey, probably the second best player on Navi with Simple. They're going to stand in for NIP in a game that means qualification for a major tournament.
Nice.
It's like, what? How does this even make sense?
Nice. Oh, well, if you need a sub, get Simple. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, it's that simple. But the rules in esports are a little broken, and we'll touch on that a little later, because what we should probably go to here is, I mean, you were a Warcraft 3 admin, and involved in the Dota scene and everything. That eventually led to your journalism career, and I gather it was first with what, eGamer before DGL.
Yeah. So Dean, the same person that gave me admin, eventually started the eGamer website on the same server that Twilight was running on, right? And he said, "Would you like to write some articles for us? I'll occasionally give you a review code." So I said, "Fine." So I started writing these very bizarre opinion pieces that still exist somewhere. I think that website still exists, that you can go and find. Very strange writing. But, I had to start somewhere. And I did some gaming reviews and stuff for them. And eventually, I had graduated and needed a job, essentially. After trying to freelance for a year, the income wasn't enough in sort of the music world, so I needed a sort of a 9-to-5 kind of thing. And then I was still doing some work for eGamer, but that wasn't paid at all. That was just sort of me helping out a friend. And eventually, Telkom Game, it was Do Gaming at the time, advertised a position for journalists, and I happened to have a pretty good CV since I was a Dota player. And I knew quite a lot of the CS players through Dota, and just through gaming in general. Gaming was pretty incestuous in South Africa.
Still is.
And it still is, right? And so through that, I knew a lot of people. So I had a pretty excellent CV for that. And Gridlock, who was the editor at the time, and is my editor now again, actually. Now that I've left Telkom Gaming, ironically, but he was my editor at the time. Said, "Sure, we'll give it a go," and then I worked there for 4 years, from 2013 until April 2013 until May 2017.
Wow, that's a pretty long run.
Yeah.
So why did it come to an end?
Personal choice to leave the company. I actually didn't know that Telkom Gaming was shutting down like 2 weeks after I left. I only found that out after I had left already, which is a really unfortunate thing, because those were really hardworking people that are now have been left a little stranded. So a little bit sour about that, but luckily the esports community is really helpful in helping people find their feet again, which is really good.
Yeah.
Well, something that I've So hopefully they'll get back on their feet. But I had some better opportunities. I wanted to start doing I wanted to do more casting, and at the moment that wasn't really an option with the DGL, since there's so much else going on. There's Arena. There's rumors of Metal State. There's Mega 8. There's obviously VS Gaming now. There's and even whispers of even more than that. So there's plenty on the horizon. And Devin and Sean constantly told me that I was wasted behind a wall there at VS Gaming. So I eventually listened to their advice and decided to try and sort of stalk off on my own, which is what I'm currently doing at the moment.
Well, it's good. It's good to strike out on your own and forge your own path.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to cast my first ever grand final as a result for the Mega 8. Sure, it was a disappointing one, but it's a milestone for any caster to be able to cast a grand final, especially with Wilson, because I can listen to that man's voice for hours. So it's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in that boat. I wish I sounded like that.
Oh, don't we all? Don't you all wish we sound like everyone that ever wanted to sort of put their mic close to their face once a voice like that.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. But,
yeah.
I mean, for the well, something I must actually mention is I think maybe the Queste people might do something too. They haven't said anything, but I get the strong feeling it could just be the pheromones in there. I don't know.
There's a lot of sort of talk, you know what I mean? But we'll see what actually sort of shows up.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more Dota this year in terms of top level competitive stuff, because the CS thing is good and well and everything, and it's fine for me because it means I get paid more. But at the same time, not everybody watches CS. We kind of need all the top titles in SA to be represented well and fairly for it to be a thriving scene. Because again, also variety is important. If it's always just Counter-Strike, it gets a bit fatiguing. You want to, like the fact that there was a Mega 8 event and the Telkom event the week before. Did I say Telkom? Sorry, VS Gaming event the week before. That was refreshing. It was nice that it wasn't the same thing. So I'm really hoping that the Orin event's going to be amazing. Are you going to be casting it?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Not a clue. But hopefully.
Okay, well, I'll twist Luca's arm. I don't know if I'm casting it either, but I'm going to twist his arm for my own sake as well. For the CS side.
Mate.
I'll put in a good word for you while he's in pain with his arm sort of like twisted behind his back. So I don't know if that's a good time to mention somebody's name or not, but I'm going to go for it.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So, I mean, with the DGL thing and the Telkom thing sort of wrapping up now, I mean, you said a bunch of people are sort of left out in the cold as a result. I mean, they've changed to VS. I'm assuming it's VS, right? Is that how you say it? It's not any other connotation of versus or verse?
No idea. I think it can be anything that you want it to be.
I've brought it up a few times and I still have no clarity on that point. So I'm like...
I think Rob Imphy did say something about this in that it can be anything you want it to be, but I think it's ultimately versus gaming.
So it's like
VS gaming.
It's like a young Thai boy. It can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah, it's essentially I think they want it to be
multi-use. Okay.
Multi-use, yeah.
Like a young Thai boy, but anyway, let's not go there. But. We already went there. It's too late. Can I edit this? No, I won't.
No, it's too late.
It's too late. So, I mean, with that whole thing sort of wrapping up and the people being left out in the cold, they've basically restructured it. So that kind of left a bunch of people redundant. Is that something you can talk about? I mean, I'm not going to push you on this point. You just tell me. Is there something you want to talk about?
I have no idea. I mean, the only things that I hear are rumblings through other people. So, I mean, anything that I would say is
pure speculation.
Hearsay at best.
Okay. Understood.
But what I do know is that VS Gaming wants to be in control of everything that's happening around VS Gaming. So they're taking everything in-house, which is why a lot of these moves have happened. That's about as much as I know, to be honest.
Well, I understand also when you get pushed out of something, they're not necessarily going to... I mean, you weren't going to be pushed out, you left, but if it had come to that, it would have happened and they wouldn't have given you the information anyway. So that's how employment always works. It's not like you can sort of sit with like a little cup against the wall listening to the boardroom meeting or something.
Yeah. But from what I've heard, the new CEO means good and he's willing to listen to people. So I'm sure that ultimately once he's had enough meetings and talked to enough people, they're going to get themselves on the right track, because at the moment things are changing, but if you look at like the VS Gaming Facebook page, there's been nothing for
a while.
There's no, and do you know that Leg 2 is happening at the moment? So
really? Okay.
It's almost done. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I know a little bit that something DGL was happening. Well, it's not DGL, but whatever it is now. I mean, VS Gaming League, I don't know, but I know something was happening because we had a scheduling conflict with one of the ESL games. So I remember the players were saying something about that, but that's as much as I know of what's happening. I mean, in the CS instance, Brody was putting out articles the whole time about what was happening in the games. Of
Yeah.
course, the games weren't broadcast, so we couldn't really watch them or tell what was going on. But that was sort of the one lifeline to what's happening in the scene, and that's not been there. But on the positive, as you said, I mean, the new CEO does seem like a really good guy. That whole situation with Mythic, where he really came to the table and sorted them out. So I think that
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened a year ago. I don't think so. Very, very cautiously optimistic, but I am optimistic that things are going to work out and it's going to be a really great entity. Because again, I think South African esports needs a strong DGL or VS Gaming, the guys who are broadcasting regularly, who are doing events and stuff. Because all the rest of the guys are doing this, but these are the original guys. Some may say the original and best, or whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
they need to be strong. They can't fade away.
I mean, it's ultimately, it's still going to keep on trucking. There are over 10,000 people registered on the DGL website and or are currently active in our leagues. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge entity that will always continue to be, and I'm sure that they'll be like just fine. And I'm sure that VS Gaming will. The vision of VS Gaming will soon be realized. Obviously they're in the stage of transition at the moment, so it's sort of hustle and bustle. But once they actually settle down and decide on how they want to do things, I think we'll see sort of a ton of content start to come out from them and things actually start to happen. Hopefully, that's what I hope anyway. Since, I did work for them for 4 years. So,
yeah, well, you do wish them well. I mean, there were no ill feelings and walking away or anything. So
no.
Yeah, so I mean, I think really where they've been super successful in the past has been that they've had that sort of like grassroots level thing going on that nobody else has really done. And then they also had the top level of Premier Division, and then it became Masters, and then Premier was still there.
Yeah.
Where I think they've probably been overtaken a bit is in that sort of Masters Premier Division sort of space, the top sort of echelon where guys like Orna and Nav TV in the past, Quesse now, Mega 8 now as well. The new players have been doing making a lot of strides and putting on good events. So let's hope VS can put on some good events too, because that means hopefully you'll get to cast. Maybe I will too. Who knows?
Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That'd be good.
Fingers crossed.
Hashtag get paid. But
yeah.
So I mean, let's just move along here quickly. I was going to move to something, and then I realized I don't want to move to that because that's not a cool place to go. We shouldn't go to the dark places.
Yeah, stay away from.
I was going to talk about who are the people that you hate the most in the scene, but now we're going to talk about who are your favorite people to work with within broadcast. So, fellow broadcasters, whether it be an analysis panel, casting, that sort of space.
Shout out to Devon. I would say he's probably, just because we have such a long history of playing Dota together, in terms of being my bae in the Dota 2 world, that's probably him, just because we've known each other for so long. So I think he would shout at me if I didn't say him. If I didn't say him, I would get pages upon pages of text.
And he is a sensitive soul. You can't do that to him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also a huge fan of the guys at Metal State, Barry and Sam. They've been so amazingly supportive this year when sort of I've been making decisions and trying to get things done. It's just been incredible. So I love the both of them dearly, and Lewis. I mean, obviously, he's since left Metal State, but to be continue his incredible tattooing career. But he also just three amazing people doing work over there for the esports industry. Shout out to Adam, just because he's, one of my friends that I used to LAN with. We caught him hacking in 2001.
Ban him forever.
Boom! Shots fired, y'all. Shots fired. It was at his house at a LAN, and then we stole his mother's vodka and got drunk.
That didn't go where I was expecting, but okay.
We were like 13, 14. These things happen. It was him and Ashley DeLange. We both caught with wall hacks, y'all. He's moved on to better things,
Spilling the
That's
beans. You know that in CS, all the pro players like to say, and even our local pro players, if you're caught hacking, you should be banned forever. So, sure. Adam, rip Adam, eh? Sorry.
mm,
Adam
mm, mm.
2K17 for what he did in 2003. Cheers.
Not even 2003. I think it's probably 2002, 2001.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay, well,
Source didn't exist yet.
Adam,
It
your
was
past is coming for you, bro. Sorry.
yeah. But he's got dirt on me, so I probably shouldn't.
I'm gonna get him on this, and then he can say all of the things about you that he knows.
No, no one should. No one should ever hear those things.
Okay, so we'll edit that out in post. No, we won't.
Yeah.
So,
No, we won't. And obviously, I mean, I don't know. I enjoy working with most people in the industry. I really have the crowd and sort of community that has evolved around sort of casting and esports is a really good one. And ultimately, they are pretty supportive of each other. And as someone that has tried to I worked as the casting manager last year for the DGL, so I had a lot of interaction with a lot of the casters. So it's left me in pretty good stead with most people, I think. So I love you all. There we go.
well, let's hope you haven't ruined any relationships based on what you said so far. So,
Nah, me and Adam, we're fine. We'll be fine.
so let's go a little bit behind the scenes with the DGL of the past. Of course, it's a different entity now, so hopefully we can get away with saying a thing or two. If however like a contract is put out on your life, I just want to say here that you made me do it, so it had nothing
Sure.
to do with me.
That's fine.
So I mean, I think DGL for a lot of people, like in the past, I mean, I'll speak as a former player as well. Like a lot of the decisions were very illogical. Like there didn't seem to be a ton of logic to them. I think things like the team rosters, for instance, at times like not the weird sort of roster locks if you're in a higher division compared to if you're a lower division, and like multiple teams and all of that. Is that something you can talk about of it, or?
Well, I mean, it's not a decision-making process that I ever had any inputs into for the most part, because we existed as two separate entities, right? There were the journalists, and then there's the DGL guys.
So basically, the pariahs and the cool kids.
And then there was like a sort of group chat where the two of us communicated between the two. But other than that, we existed all together in terms of the DGL made decisions. We had to write about them. So, I often I can say threw a lot of flame to some of the questionable decisions that were made, but it was always after the fact. So going back on a decision makes you look bad. So that obviously almost never happened, right? Because unless something else happened that sparked the community, and then suddenly there was a lot of flame, and then suddenly things are happening, right?
Backpedal then from that point.
Yeah, that's only really happened like once or twice. But other than that, I didn't have any say. I wish they just used a system that made sense. To be honest, like every system that's existed so far is so easily abused. And it's not like people didn't point out the ways that it could be abused either. It wasn't listened to. So, but then after the fact, once Bravado decided not to enter Masters and then just enter through a qualifier because it's the easiest thing in their life to do, then it's already too late, right? The decisions have been made.
The system has been wrecked already. So.
The system has been wrecked. So, and then what do you do? Like for your premier event, suddenly you have arguably the best side in South Africa not in your event.
Yeah,
because of a system flaw,
a loophole,
a loophole or essential design flaw.
It's like that little exhaust port on the Death Star.
Yeah, I wish that, like personally, I wish that we had received these rules and I wish that more people had been asked for feedback on these things. Like I wish they had gone to the community leaders and stuff and said, because there are committees for every game as well, and said, look at this, what do you think about this? Because the gamers are a pretty smart bunch for the most part, and they give good criticism about things when asked in a nice manner. If you ask patiently, then you get good answers.
And in the correct context, because of course, if you just say, "What do you think about this?" then salt comes out, toxicity comes out.
And the systems are in place for them to get feedback, but I feel like it's not used often enough, especially with decisions like that. If you'd ask, or even just go look at like ESL and other tournaments and go see how they do it, and then just copy that, right? Or just at least take that and adapt that structure for VS gaming as it exists.
Yeah, I guess with anything like this, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel because it exists in so many places around the world. So
yeah,
it always amazed me that it was so different. That's also where it got super confusing. You play in one competition, DGL, and then you play in every other competition that uses international rule sets, and it's like the most opposite thing possible at times, just in terms of like the way picks and bans work and things like that as well.
It's arguably worse for the scene, right? Because at the moment in South Africa, our rosters have always been designed around the periods of the DGL calendar. Like that's how they existed because of the roster lock systems and things that were in place. Your Premier Division teams and your tournaments, any tournament that was like around other tournaments other than the DGL, couldn't have any sort of these roster lock systems in place because the DGL had them in place already. So it's a detriment to. It just acts as a detriment to the scene as a whole in the long term, and we've sort of seen it a little bit. In some tournaments, or last year for the Masters, where there was suddenly like last minute roster changes, and then they suddenly had to create another roster change window, and all sorts of other crazy things to try and like get around the other tournaments that were taking place, right? So,
well, that's also a very international esports thing too. Let's make a new rule so that we don't have to follow our old rule.
Yeah, it's dubious, I would say.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned ESL. I work for them, so I'm probably not supposed to criticize them. But they had some interesting things with Virtus Pro earlier this year, for instance, in CS, where they made some new rules. So, but I mean, that's well documented. Obviously, people don't agree, but that's their decision. On your side as well, I mean, you're not with them anymore, but I do feel like, again, cautiously optimistic that a lot of these issues will actually be overcome with the new management, the new sort of style and everything. I think it would be good. I guess, something that you and a lot of the other journalists had to deal with quite a bit was putting out their fires of the previous regime, so to speak. Did that teach you how to be a real spin doctor?
We called it fluffing. And I could fluff at the best of them.
Shall we explain where that term actually originates?
No. No, we shouldn't.
We shouldn't. Okay, well, you can go look it up. Just don't Google image search it.
No, don't Google image search it. But yeah, we called it fluffing, and I was the fluffiest. I was the fluffiest of the bunch.
The one with the strongest fluffing arm.
Yeah, John, our editor, he's not a fluffy man. His writing style has always been like, he says what's the information, and that is it. There's no fluff whatsoever. But I could spin everything, and the punnier the better generally as well, because I'm a terrible human being. Yeah.
So you memed before memes existed.
My favorite title, I think, to this day, was when we announced the Masters this year, which was. What is it? Something old, something new, no blue. Welcome to the 2017.
Oh my word!
2017 Masters.
That's pretty horrendous.
So good. It was like my pride and joy. Oh, it was.
What can you get past the editor that will still be published?
She hated it actually, but then it got approved by higher ups, and I was like, yes,
vindicated.
I won my battle. Yeah. Fun inside story. There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I also do a fair bit of writing, not really so much in esports, but in the day job. So
yeah,
I can appreciate that. So some of the things that you can get past or can't get past, love it. It's like a game. How far can the envelope be pushed?
Yeah, actually, the new journalist work I'm doing is essentially anti-fluff. It is
Oh
only
wow.
information. So it has been a drastic change in style for me.
Well, tell us a bit about that.
I cannot.
You
So
can't. Dun
it is not
dun
for
dun.
anything that I'm not allowed. It's not for. I do
It's not
some
for
great.
human consumption yet.
Yeah, but it's not for esports. So I am going to be doing some esports writing though in the South African scene soon. I think once certain people get back to me, they know who they
Uh,
are.
well, since you mentioned fluffing, I'm going to speculate that you're writing for a, I don't know, like the porn industry awards or something like that. Since you're a fluffer.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
But you're just giving the facts. You know, that's how long it was, and that's when it happened, and
Yeah. Exactly.
and therefore you win an award. I don't know what the awards are for, but we'll
What
go.
is what is a Pawny award, or is it called a Pawny? I don't know. I assume it's
No,
something
no,
like.
wait. Okay, wait. Let me Google while we're here. Porn awards, and let's see what happens. Wait. Wow.
Yeah. What would it be? The.
AVN award.
Huh?
It even has
Okay.
like an Oscar-looking thing, eh?
What, adult film, adult something.
Yeah. I
Oh
don't know.
no.
What does it stand
Sure.
for? Adult video. No, I don't know. Do I want to
Sure.
click on it? I'm clicking on it.
No, don't.
What does it stand for? Adult Video News Awards. Okay, that's a really innocuous thing. I was expecting something else there. So, okay, so my theory is you will be writing the press releases for the AVN Awards.
Yeah.
There we
Sure.
go.
Let's say that.
I should have Googled that before this video, but but if I told you I Googled it before the video, would you have believed me? You'd be just like, you watch it every year, dude. So
Yeah.
you know, especially the live performances, those are the best. It's just like the Grammys. You know, some of the artists get up and perform before in between the segments, right?
Yeah.
I don't actually know if that would be pretty freaking crazy if that was the
That'd be
case.
amazing.
Anyway, moving on from fluff, and we've spoken about fluffing and young Thai boys. So, and now the adult film awards. What is on our mind? Clearly the wrong things. So, I mean, there's another thing that we were talking about a little bit before, which is quite interesting about our local scene, and maybe your take on it could be quite unique since you're a Dota guy. I always found players to be fragile creatures, you know, easily startled by movement or lights or sounds or anything like that. Not really, but yeah, the playing scene in South Africa, the guys are quite. They don't like being criticized by casters or on-air panelists or anything like that. And I mean, often when one says something, you'll get a message from a player getting upset that you praised him, but not in the correct context that he would have liked, or you used the wrong sort of, I don't know, simile or something like that. And then there's also the extreme examples of getting like hate messages, oh, you said this about me, fuck you, kind of thing. It doesn't seem to be unique to South Africa, but it seems like in South Africa the players are far more sensitive. Do you think it's maybe because the broadcast aspect of it is relatively new here compared to overseas, or the guys just not prepared to deal with it, or?
I think it's a mixture of things. One, I don't think our casters are respected in the slightest when it comes to their opinion. Like especially, you know, people don't even remember who I am anymore. So when they see me casting, they're just like, who the fuck is DeMoNiK? I've never heard of the soak in my life. Never mind that I've been playing Dota since like 2003 or whatever. You know, it's just so there's like a total lack of any sort of knowledge, respect. The fact that a different, opinion may be a slightly correct one. It may not be entirely correct, but there may be some value to it. It's what, you know.
Well, that's why it's called an opinion, because it's an opinion. It doesn't need to be the truth. It's just an opinion.
And it's also, I think, a matter of age. Like now, as like an older person that has dealt with being like an admin on a Warcraft 3 server, which had some of the most notoriously bad admins to have ever existed on South African servers. and having to deal with the community there and our forum, which I think Anthony from Flipside has mentioned, which was like one of the original cesspits of South African of the South African community, right? And having like sort of dealt with that and dealt with sort of people like getting older, you don't get angry about anything anymore. You don't get upset, especially when it comes to like playing games. You don't get upset about things that happen. It's just life, and you move on. And I think that only comes with age,
experience and age. Yeah,
experience and age. So obviously there are people that are slightly older souls and do well, and there are obviously 16-year-olds that will still crush everyone, but they often have someone older that they look up to, if that makes sense. It's like the art easy sort of fear thing in Dota. They have someone older than to them that's like their sort of mentor they have someone with the experience and knowledge to respect and actually put them in the right place for them to continue crushing as a 16-year-old like Wonder Child. So I think it's just a matter of players needing a little bit more patience when it comes to receiving criticism more than anything else, and actually just being open, right? Being open to even if it's a wrong opinion, be open to it regardless, and not just shut it down.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I guess also part of it is maybe what doesn't get sort of realized because it's such a small community is what the broadcast talent is also there to do is to entertain, so sometimes they'll bring out a storyline that may not actually be accurate. And like I've also gotten upset with fellow casters before where I've watched a cast and been like, no, you motherfucker, that's not what's going on. I know those guys, that's not what's happening. But it's like, it doesn't always matter. It's not always relevant. It's a storyline for entertainment in something that is for entertainment. I mean, it's not quite WWE or something, but it still has to have a factual basis. But getting upset about it isn't going to help. Sometimes it's got to be. There's got to be a balance. It's got to be a balance of actual hard fact, absolutely. And but the entertainment aspect of esports, I think people forget about too much, particularly players. That's also why I think a lot of the time players make some of the very worst commentators, because some of them make very good commentators if they're somebody with a lot of character. But sometimes it's like speaking to a speaking brick wall. It's like, what did you think? That was good.
Yeah.
kind of stuff like that.
Oh, that was terrible. Yeah.
Oh, that was terrible. Or like whatever. So it's the character thing. Not everybody's cut out to do this. Not every player's cut out to do this. So that is also an aspect. The entertainment aspect, I think, maybe gets lost in it for a lot of players because they see the game differently. Whatever game it is, they see it in their viewpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a support in Dota, you see the game through the eyes of a support. So you're going to bring out different points to the guy who's been the carry, or if it's CS, the entry fragger's approach and thinking is different to the in-game leader or whatever. So even those elements, when you bring a guy like that on a panel or on a casting desk, it's the kind of viewpoint is different, but. In their case, usually until they learn to be an entertainment, except for like Mr. Donio, Donny, maybe he just seems to be born to upset people, which I'm also born to do. So it's great, love it.
He triggers everyone. It's so great. He just calls a spade a spade. Oh, that was totally shit. What a shit draft.
Yeah, South African players are terrible. I mean, there's what's his name? Black Poison from Energy Esports and CSGO,
Energy Esports
who said some things on Facebook a while ago about the then Energy team going over to Copenhagen, and that also triggered people big time. I think people still remember that, which is crazy. It's you were mentioning being a caster where people have a very short memory for you. Like I've also discovered that.
But if you do something wrong,
then they remember you forever. It's I will be remembered forever. I'll go down in infamy because I've basically managed to upset everybody, which is good. So I'll go with that.
I still remember to this day, if I come across people while playing Dota on like the South African servers that used to be like total assholes, I'll still remember that, Nick, and I'll be like, I remember what you did, because Richard never forgets. So
Is that a Swedish
to this
thing? Or?
day. Maybe, I don't know. I think my mind is just filled with information that it absolutely does not need to know at all. Like people that had like offended me in 2007 in a game of Dota or whatever.
Like, screw you, 10 years ago you were mean to me, I'm going to mute you before I even hear your voice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. That's giving some people power over you, man.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I just laugh about it. I just feel like, hey, you used to be like a total asshole back in the day. Have you actually grown up? I think it was the last time I saw someone I said that.
Age and experience, bro.
And he was like 14 at the, when he upset me. So he had actually grown up, but he was okay. So age, man, improves everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also
except
an
the looks.
18-year-old kid when I was an admin. So things, it was an emotional time.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I would suggest go outside and find somebody to hug, but since it's a hurricane, that option is lost. So I do apologize. You are alone in this world, and if the hurricane does not finish, then you may die in your apartment. So I'm glad we have this video chronicle.
Not for a while, because I mass hoarded food yesterday when I heard about the oncoming storm. So
Are you one of those crazies?
Yeah, well, I've got cans of beans for ages. No, not that crazy, but I did buy an extraordinary amount of food for no apparent reason. It was like the storm's going to be here for like a day, and I can feed myself for like 2 weeks.
Yes. Life sorted.
Be prepared, yeah.
So talking about being prepared and sorting your life out, we've spoken a bit about your current situation and what you'll be doing in future. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your plans for the future, Mr. DeMoNiK?
Nothing at the moment, I would say. There are a couple of things sort of in the pipeline with people from my part that we're busy sort of discussing and putting things planned together. So there's nothing concrete that I can talk about yet. But I will, if anything, even though I may not be spamming the Facebook groups as much as I used to when I was working as a journalist with the constant spam. I'm sure Brody, you guys, like Brody in the CS group was also just constant.
Shut up, Brody.
We constantly spammed. Oh, bad luck, Brody. Spammed the group. So even though we may be spamming less, there's still stuff coming that I'm super excited to get involved in, and I will be casting as much as I can, and as much as people invite me to cast, I will be there and ready, as long as I don't have to cameraman for any of the games. So as long as I can analyze and be on a panel, Richard's your man. I'm there.
Cool. Well, I can consider that a job application to any Dota event organizers that may possibly watch this. So if Luke is watching this, there's Richard. If anybody from VS is watching it, they're probably not anymore because we spoke about a Thai boy.
Yeah, there have been some things said.
Yeah, the shots were fired. Not necessarily in any direction, but usually shots are scary and you duck. So
yeah.
But yeah,
words of judge, I know you should always fire twice. One for warning, and then one to kill. Right,
the one to kill. So I do appreciate your time, and I really hope to work at an event that has Dota and CS with you at some point in future. I think it would be really cool. Really enjoy what you do. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you guys want to check him out, there's his Twitter handle at DeMoNiKZA. I think he needs some Twitter love, man. Not enough followers there. Hey, too much time spending ripping other people. Rip yourself, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's well, to be honest, I haven't logged in that Twitter for like 3 years because we only used to use the Telkom DGL Twitter, and I was just I never had Twitter on my phone, so I was just too lazy to log out and then log back in every time to log onto my own Twitter. So I just used the DGL Twitter for like 3 years. So I'm not the best at Twitter, but if you find me at DeMoNiK today on everything else, so I think, and my Facebook page is DeMoNiK Goes Gaming.
Cool. Well, check out the man, guys, and get active on Twitter, bro. Move into the wave of the esports future. Twitter's the wave, bro.
And if I ever get a silver 1, you may even see me in a game of Counter-Strike or 2.
I'll take up that challenge. In fact, I will add you on Steam immediately after this and try to invite you to
I am actually silver 1 at
Holy
Counter-Strike.
shit, I didn't know that existed.
Is what happens.
I thought it was a myth.
This is what happens, right? When if you go look at, I think it's Clown Squad, whatever, the one where we did the Sonic challenge.
Sonic Too Fast.
Sonic Too Fast, right? We had to be the fastest. This was the first game of Counter-Strike I had played in like 5 to 6 months. And this is when obviously I decided to do my competitive placement match, because there was a competitive match. So obviously, when you only run forward and with a P90 and
I
just
remember that now. I am remembering it. Yes.
randomly spray, you actually get placed in Silver 1. So I am an actual Silver 1 account.
Wow.
Unintentionally, but I feel like I'm slightly better than Silver 1.
I think I want to invite you to a game. I want to see how you do at Supreme Master First Class level.
People like actually physically want to play Counter-Strike with me, and I'm like, no, because I know that it's going to be so far above the actual level that I can play, with everyone else, or that's it's just going to be a shit show, to be honest.
Sometimes you need a bot to draw the fire, man. Like, I mean, are you that bot?
I mean,
step up to the call, man. Step up to the plate. Answer the call.
See, Adam will laugh about this. They always. I mean, at LANs, they always told me to be the square, right? You have to just run around in a circle, be the square, and then try to shoot people. That's how you play Counter-Strike. Eventually, we created Pulse Tactical, which because their clan was Pulse Gaming, not the Pulse Gaming that exists today, but they were just called Pulse. And like they tried to teach me how to play Counter-Strike, and it just
didn't work.
It didn't work, man. It didn't work. They were just like, go play Warcraft. You could be Pulse Tactical. Everything's fine. But just don't play Counter-Strike. Just leave it to us. Everything's fine. And I was like, I'm okay with that, because I used to wreck them at like Jedi Knight Outcast 2 and other games.
I love that game.
Like Revolt and other great LAN games from the early 2000s.
So you were in Counter-Strike, you were a potato named DeMoNiK.
Yeah, I was essentially a patat. But I mean, the thing is, I've been playing Counter-Strike. I mean, I remember like Dimitri Hadjipascali, the captain of Bravado Gaming's side. He sounded like a small squeaky bear, because I used to go over to my friend Scott's house and play on his ISDN, right? Because he had the double line 64, 128K ISDN.
64 up, 64 down. Yeah.
Man. So he had that. So I used to go play Counter-Strike on that, because the two of us could play at the same time on the ISDN. And Dimitri was like a 10 to 11-year-old boy that spoke like this on like the Dasher servers. And to this day, every time I see him, that's like the first thing that I think of is like, this small boy, guys, I'm going gay. But that's what happens when you've been gaming your entire life in South Africa. You tend to know these people for like a disgustingly long time. So
yeah, well, it's been fun knowing you in this video for the disgustingly long time of 1 hour and 2 minutes.
I'm not sure how informative it's been, but it's been dirty. It's
been dirty, and it's been entertaining. So I do appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you guys watching it. Check out DeMoNiK on Twitter, on Facebook, and anywhere else that he'll flash you pictures of his boobs.
I will.
Out.